Well, the family of late President when I see Sister Judy, I see Kibaki. I know the rest of you can David out here because it got to a stage where Judy was quite a presence. Well, I want to thank the panelists for some very exemplary remarks about President Mwai Kibaki. And I also want to thank the organizing committee. I will be short on protocol because I may be mentioning Ambassador Muturi in my remarks. I thought I should place this on record. And the reason is I didn't have the time because of, if you remember when we laid President Mwai Kibaki to rest, it was quite an occasion. And I didn't have the opportunity to say one or two things. Ambassador Muturi eloquently actually represented all of us then. Therefore, if you allow me, I want to read my short remarks. April 22nd is a date embedded in my mind and thoughts since the death of our beloved third President of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency Mwai Emilio Kibaki. When I learned that a group of eminent Kenyans launched the Mwai Kibaki Annual Memorial Lecture to keep the memory and ideas of this African icon alive 2 years ago, it warmed my heart and spirit. This is a befitting endeavor worthy of the icon we honor today and the yardstick we judge any Kenyan leader against. Such was his measure. I first met President Mwai Kibaki when I was elected to Parliament in 1985. Oh my goodness, it's actually been 40 years since. On the 10th of this month, marked my 40th anniversary as a leader, having been elected to Parliament then. I met him when I was elected as a young member of Kitui North constituency following a by-election. I was young, and he was the Vice President of the Republic of Kenya, as well as Minister for Home Affairs. I was a greenhorn, and Kibaki had been feted not just nationally, but internationally, as a finance minister who steered the economy with sound fiscal discipline for over 13 years during the First Republic. Internationally respected Time magazine, as has been mentioned, had in 1974 named Kibaki in the top 100 people in the world with the potential to lead. The Time editors had foresight and believed in Kibaki, perhaps even more than Kenyans themselves. 28 years after that heralded article, Mwai Kibaki took the oath of office as the President of the Republic of Kenya. As the Deputy Speaker of our National Assembly, I witnessed firsthand his oratory masterclass. He was an orator, a script writer, not like Malala perhaps, but very close to that. The august floor was his stage and always sold out. When the National Rainbow Coalition won the historic 27 December 2002 general election, President Kibaki appointed me as his first Minister for Foreign Affairs, and then our relationship became more personal. It is that forge of trust and faith, I believe, that allowed President Kibaki to reach out to my party, ODM Kenya as it then was, to save and rescue our nation state following the post-election 2007 violence. Together, we formed what was the first coalition and first negotiated position in the name of the Office of the Vice President. I then had the honor and privilege to be sworn in as the 10th Vice President of our country on the 9th of January 2008. President Kibaki made everyone feel at home. He would get our nation laughing. Don't you all remember? Even when I was faced with difficult moments, we would actually say to enjoy. And when things became a little tougher, as an elder statesman, he would call you harsher things. And one time he famously said that because of the Mlolongo system of voting that time, and he had been rigged out of his Othaya constituency, he actually said that even rigging required some intelligence. That was Kibaki. President Kibaki would even other times say very hard things, and you got away with it. President Kibaki listened and he empowered his lieutenants. He was not a micromanager. He reduced taxation across the board and did away with unnecessary and prohibitive laws. President Kibaki's leadership led to the unprecedented 7% growth of our economy, as we've had, from 0.6%. Our infrastructural growth was self-evident, as was a commitment to economic recovery strategy and Vision 2030, as we've just heard from men who worked very closely with him in that regard. President Kibaki was an iconic father figure, a selfless, beloved, and brilliant leader, and his legacy will live on through countless generations. It was my greatest honor and singular privilege. Remarkably, that was him. And you remember he's the first person to say, you will not have a national currency having anybody's head printed on it. And he lived to actually see that happen. One of his least eroded qualities was his ability to restore our constitutional ambition, and we have heard from Professor Kivutha Kibwana, was his advisor in that space, come out very clearly on the steps that were undertaken. Less than 5 years from the costly defeat by the people of the Wako constitutional draft at the November 2005 referendum, President Kibaki promulgated the 2010 Constitution of Kenya on the 27th August 2010. Actually, after that referendum, I found myself missing from the newly constituted cabinet. I was not the only one. Raila Odinga was also missing. That was Kibaki, and he never followed you up with nasty utterances. Kenya has President Kibaki to greatly thank, and we owe him a debt of gratitude, because our constitution is heralded as one of the most progressive constitutions in Africa, if not the world. It is this constitution that now more than ever holds the fabric of our nation together at these grave and perilous times. Allow me to, for example, because if Kibaki was here, he wouldn't himself shy away from dealing with this matter. Yesterday, Kenya and the world witnessed the most unfortunate assault on democracy, when security agents, acting on orders from above, lobbed tear gas at young students of Muturi Girls High School and members of the press at the National Drama Festival in Nakuru. It is an act of criminality against basic values of common decency. It is a direct assault to our democracy and rights of Kenyans as enshrined in our Constitution. And Article 33 of our Constitution, which was given to us as a heritage by President Kibaki, every person has the right to freedom of expression, a right that includes the guarantee for the Muturi girls to perform their play without fear or intimidation. The artistic expression is protected under the law. Article 34 further guarantees the freedom and independence of the media. Let us be clear, this Ruto regime has crossed the Rubicon. To the courageous students of Muturi Girls, your resolve, even as you sang our national anthem in the face of riot gear and arms, has become a renewed symbol of hope, just like our Gen Zs. You are the true guardians of Kenya's future, bold, unyielding, and principled. Let it be known today, as we honor President Kibaki, who promulgated our sacred document 15 years ago on August 27, 2010, that we will continue to defend the Constitution. We will protect all Kenyans' freedoms and rights, and we will not be silenced, not today, not now, not ever. We say this in honor of His Excellency, President Mwai Kibaki. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Haji. The family of Mzee wetu Mwai Kibaki, the third president of the Republic of Kenya, distinguished guests, the panelists, the professors who have talked to us, and all the people who have come here for this memorial lecture and luncheon for the greatest president of our times, the late Mzee Mwai Kibaki. Good afternoon. I'm really very honored that I was invited to come for this lecture, and I want to thank the professors who spoke here to us about the leadership of Mzee Mwai Kibaki. Mzee Mwai Kibaki is a legend. He's a reference point in matters governance. And anybody who talks about governance in this country, there is reference to his leadership. He left a legacy that remains permanent, that is visible, and that is felt. His greatest achievement was the economic restoration and transformation of this country. And because I'm somebody who listens to the ordinary people, they tell me, don't tell us about economic growth, don't tell us about economic survey, don't tell us the economy has improved from this percentage to this percentage. We want to feel the growth the way we felt it when Kibaki was president. Because there was money in circulation, there was infrastructural development that is feasible, and people say they don't want to be told theories. They want to feel economic growth the way they felt it when Mwai Kibaki was president between the year 2002 and 2013. I want to really acknowledge the culture of hard work that the late president inculcated in all of us, asking people to work hard. I remember when he was sworn in as president and he made his first visit to Othaya, and those of us from Nyeri were very excited to welcome our son home, and we were lining up everywhere waiting for him. And when he reached Karatina, where I was, he didn't come out of the vehicle. And he lowered the window by a few inches, and then called the PC, akamuuliza, bwana PC, nini naendelea hapa? Hii watu yote, it was around 11. Nani nachuna majani chai? Nani yuko kwa shamba ya kahawa? Hapana, 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 tutaharibu. Tukiendelea namna hii tutaharibu. He put the window up and drove to Othaya. Nobody ever came again to meet Mwai Kibaki. Watu walienda kwa mashamba. And that is how this country was transformed. The culture of hard work. I want to say that many people today who are solid in this country, I included, we made our money during the time of Mwai Kibaki. Because government documents were respected. If you had an LPO issued to you from government, you could walk into a bank and get 50% as LPO financing. Because you do the work and you would get paid. Today, if you go to an LPO, to a bank, nobody will talk to you. He really dignified government contracts. by making sure that contracts were only given when money was available and there was budgetary support. These great men pushed taxation, and we want today, as we remember him in a very fond manner, to say there's nothing wrong with taxation. And Kenyans cannot be accused of refusing to pay taxes, because Mwai Kibaki did it. Lipa kodi, ujitegemee, and people paid taxes, and they didn't complain because they saw a corresponding development and services. Kenyans don't have a problem with paying taxes, but Kenyans have a big problem in paying taxes that they cannot see what the money is doing. So we want to ask our brothers now in government to know that Kenyans are not complaining about overtaxation because they don't want to pay tax. They have a problem of paying taxes that are misappropriated, that are not used appropriately. And Mwai Kibaki is a living testimony that Kenyans are willing to pay taxes, but they want to see a corresponding service and development. Mwai Kibaki respected institutions. Ambassador Muturi is here, and Ambassador, we want to salute you. Mwai Kibaki would not have succeeded without the support of the bureaucracy that you led. But he also allowed you to work, because we know he allowed people to work. Because if you have a supporting system that supports you, it can only be effective to support you if you allow them to work. Mwai Kibaki respected institutions, and going forward, that must be the way for this country, so that institutions can work. Again, we must remember him for the 2010 Constitution, and all those who say that they remember him fondly, the way to dignify his legacy is to implement the Constitution and follow it letter and spirit. Because when we do that, we'll have a good country. Mwai Kibaki spoke very little and did much. Most of us are learning from him. Nowadays, I only talk once a week. I'm becoming a good student of Mwai Kibaki. Going forward, I will talk after 2 weeks, then one a month, because he spoke very little and did a lot, you know. And I think you don't need to speak much. You just work, and work can be seen. And if you remember free primary education, it was real. Today it isn't. And Mwai Kibaki didn't have to talk about it. How kuipigia debe, he did it, and it was there for everybody to see and to feel. Let me, Judy and your siblings, thank you, because many people do not appreciate the place of family in leadership. There's no leader who can succeed if you don't have family support. The fact that Mwai Kibaki was a very successful leader in this country speaks volume of the support that the family gave him. And therefore, as we celebrate him, we want to honor the family for standing behind your father, supporting him at home, and allowing him to dedicate his life to the service of this great republic. Again, we also want to honor the Kibaki family, because despite many challenges and temptations, you never allowed yourselves to be misused by entrepreneurs to spoil the name of your father and yourselves. Mwai Kibaki is gone, but his integrity and that of his family remains up. Nobody has ever suited Mwai Kibaki and his family in any scandal in this country. And we know the temptations around family by people who want to use proximity to power. So you have really dignified your father, because his name is good, and nobody has ever thrown him into anything that would have looked conflict of interest or commercial interest for his tenure in State House. He did a good job, and we want to really salute the family, because that is really the way to go. Dr. Mukisa Kitui, we are envious of the cabinet you served at Mwai Kibaki, that you are allowed to speak. Justin Muturi and I can tell you, in the cabinet we served, it's only me and him who could speak. And that is why we have to be edged out. The rest are flower girls and praise and worship choir. So we would have wanted, if things could reverse and we served at Mwai Kibaki, would have enjoyed, because he would have allowed us to contribute, to make meaningful contribution to the management of the affairs of this country. Haji, I've heard you correctly about the place of DP in Othaya, but I'm more concerned not even about DP in Othaya. I am more concerned about the quality of leadership in that constituency that was led by Mwai Kibaki. A graduate of the London School of Economics, the greatest president of all times, a man who represented Othaya with wisdom, a man who was a good debater. Then when he was gone, the replacement of Mwai Kibaki, like today, it's a shame. Member of Parliament who never speaks in Parliament at all, who hasn't made any contribution on the floor of the House. And Othaya now is a pale shadow of the Othaya under Mwai Kibaki. Coming this general election in 2027, we shall talk to the people of Othaya to dignify the late Mwai Kibaki by looking for a quality legislator who, even if he cannot measure up to the level of Mwai Kibaki, can be there 60-70%. But the present situation in Othaya is embarrassing and is very demeaning to the late Mwai Kibaki and his family. And Othaya people are crying for a change, and we'll be having conversation with them so that they can look for quality leadership that can be able to hold the name of that great old man in high repute. So mimi nimeshukuru sana, tuko hapa na viongozi wengi ambaye sijui Haji unataka tuwapatie, unataka tufanye namna gani, introduce them? What do you want to introduce them? Dakika moja moja wote. Yeah, tuko na the Honorable Eugene kiongozi wetu. Kuja useme jambo. His late brother was vice president to Mwai Kibaki. First vice president. Na alikuwa na kizungu mingi sana. Hata huyu wako na kizungu mingi. Sio mingi sana. But he served Mwai Kibaki well. So kuja sema jambo.
Asante sana. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, the Kibaki family, the DP leadership, the distinguished panel, and distinguished guests. Good afternoon. Let me start by thanking the Kibaki family and also the DP leadership for giving us the opportunity to be here today to remember a great leader. And as His Excellency has said, I think he's the most consequential leader of our republic. And as we remember him today, we remember words of a wise man who said that sometimes we are all warmed by fires we did not light, and we drink from wells we did not dig. This great leader, when you look at his symbol, there was something very unique about Kibaki. It was always about light. His symbol ya DP ilikuwa ni taa, mwangaza, lighting the way. When we came to NAC and several of our parties came together, my late brother had fought Kenya, we had others. Forming NAC again, Kibaki chose light, mwenge, yes, the torch, yes, to light the way. And the light that he left us is the Vision 2030. That is still the light guiding the journey that is our national development. We're in 2025. We have 5 years to go to 2030. So as we meet here today as leaders, let us start thinking about another light, that from 2027, as we form the next government, we can have a leadership that can light another light beyond 2030, beyond Africa Agenda 2063. And I see that leadership in this room. I see the next government in this room. I thank the organizers for choosing this historic venue. Mwai Kibaki once met here with his friend Wamalwa Kijana and his other friend Charity Ngilu. The late Kihika Kimani asked, ni nini wanaume wawili wanafanya na mwanamke mmoja kwa hoteli? Kumbe Kibaki was forming the next government. Yes. So those of you who are here, Kibaki's friends, let us look at this as a 202 moment. Let us drink from this well of inspiration, and let us be inspired to save our country, because apart from Vision 2030, the greatest legacy left us was the Constitution. He appointed me as Minister for Justice, and I remember when I invited him to address the judiciary, they were bidding him farewell. I told him, Mr. President, I don't know what historians will write about you. What would be your greatest legacy? They would have a hard time because they would wonder whether free primary education was your greatest legacy. They would wonder whether the phenomenal infrastructure development was your greatest legacy. But I told him, Your Excellency, I think your greatest legacy will be the Constitution 2010. All we need to do as a country is to remain and to protect that Constitution and to implement it fully and faithfully. It's being violated time and again. It was violated last year on the 25th of June when young people, the Gen Z, were slaughtered, demanding for accountability, good governance, and an end to corruption. Yesterday I was in Nakuru as a lawyer acting for Butere Girls. We are not talking about the Gen Z. This is the Gen Alpha. Kids, children being tear gassed, being injured, being denied one of the most fundamental freedoms in that Constitution, freedom of expression. A child should be allowed to express themselves freely, not as a favor from the state, but it is a constitutional protection of our children, nationally and internationally. So as we remember Mwai Kibaki, let us remember to remain and to uphold fidelity to our Constitution and to get in place the right leadership in 2027. Thank you and God bless you.
Attorney General Emeritus Justin Muturi, please don't be as brief as the ambassador. Don't be as brief as the ambassador.
Exactly.
He was too brief.
Thank you to the family of His Excellency President Mwai Kibaki, the organizing committee, the panelists, and all of us that have attended this second lecture. Good afternoon. I'll try to copy Ambassador Mudaura. But let me say this, and indeed I intend to be extremely brief, because many people may not think, when I speak in the presence of Norman Nyaga, my good friend Mzee Joe Consolo Munyao, when I claim to be old, they always laugh at me. They think I'm a small boy. Now that I'm also claiming to be old, in that for the longest time, even when I was a young man, Norman, even as a student in high school, there's only one person in the Kenyan political leadership that I always loved to one day meet. It was President Mwai Kibaki. But because we have been told quite some exciting stuff by the panelists, Mzee Munyao, and now Ambassador Mudaura, I want to just pick one point, not about his eloquence and his capacity to debate any topic in Parliament, which I found quite unique, but it's something that I think, for me, I emulate from President Mwai Kibaki. We've talked about the many gifts that he has left this country. Talked about Vision 2030. And my worry is just that as it comes to an end, we may get into some darkness. His Excellency Rigathi has always been telling people that whenever it gets very dark, it's just about dawn. You're just about to get to some light. But I fear for the country if it gets too dark. This document that at every time, and it dictates to, before you take up any state job, you must swear by the Constitution to defend it, to uphold it, to protect it. As my brother Eugene pointed out, has dedicated the whole chapter 6. But know what? Actually, you don't need to read chapter 6. You just need to follow the public life of the longest serving member of parliament so far in this country, Mwai Kibaki. Chapter 6 is on leadership and integrity. How it is that somebody could have been in public life, in politics, that long, and to date, you don't hear anybody saying, oh, they planned this, they planned Thika Highway, but in the process of planning Thika Highway, there was this which was supposed to sort out some things. This, for me, is extremely important. Even as we read that chapter 6 on leadership and integrity, we've been told about ICT. How I wish we all in leadership could borrow a leaf that when we come up with projects, public projects, we don't do so because we have hidden private interests in there. Because virtually everything we do these days, as you go through the documents, you come to realize, oh, there's something here which is not very clear. How is it that President Mwai Kibaki went through it, Minister for Finance, Minister for Health, Assistant Minister, but you can't hear. And in those very critical dockets, to date, you cannot see or hear what we hear today. So, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, whether you read chapter 6, read about President Mwai Kibaki to know what it is. When we talk about good governance, when we talk about integrity in public leadership, in office, you just need to read the history of Mwai Kibaki. Then you can read chapter 6 as kind of a lullaby, because when you read the history of Mwai Kibaki, then integrity in public leadership, in public office, will become so clear to you that you don't need to read anything else. Many of you, I'm sure, are religious people, either Muslims or Christians or Hindus. You know, virtues, the virtues of integrity, honesty. I think there's a lot that we can learn just by reading the life of President Mwai Kibaki, because it amazes me how somebody could have been in leadership, rising to the highest office, and you still cannot hear anything, not touching even on his family, not touching him, not even his close friends. It speaks volumes. That is the legacy of Mwai Kibaki that I live with. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Tumeshukuru sana. Ambassador Mudhaura talked about housing that Mwai Kibaki did, and it triggered my mind when William Ruto brought the affordable housing and there was outcry out there. People are saying they be left alone to do their own houses. And I had a conversation with him, and he says, no, we need houses. And I told him, Mwai Kibaki did a lot of housing, but not the actual construction. The government did not have a housing program. All Mwai Kibaki did was to open up the bypasses, provide infrastructure in terms of sewage, electricity, and water. And the private sector on its own build houses all over Nairobi. And they are there for everybody to see. There is no need for government to compete with the private sector to put up houses. The work of government is not to do houses, it's to provide services. And of course, he said, I'm not Mwai Kibaki, I will do things differently. So one of the things we intend to do, those of us who are like-minded who want to have a regime change in 2027, is to scrap the housing levy and reinstate the housing initiative to the private sector by government just providing services. Just do roads, water, open up, and things will just come up on their own. Again, I must say, I went to see Mwai Kibaki in 1988. I was a student leader at the University of Nairobi. I was the chairman of the Nyeri University Student Association. And through my then Member of Parliament, the late Matuamai, I sought an appointment to see the Vice President, and I went to his office in Jogo House. And we had a lot of discussion, and he wanted to know what are my ambitions, and I told him I'm interested in business. I had thought he would give me some money to start the business. Not Mwai Kibaki. He went on his shelf, behind him, there were many books. And he looked through, produced one book and gave it to me. That book, the author is called Jonathan Black. It's called The Oil. He said, if you want to do business, go and read this book, you'll be a good businessman. That is his mentorship, and today I'm a good businessman, instead of tokenism. Judy, please work quickly to finish the mausoleum in Othaya, because much as we are having this ceremony here, the villagers back home would like to celebrate Mzee, and they would like to come and remember him. And since we cannot bring them here to Nairobi to listen to Professor Kagwanja and foreign policy, they would just like to come to Othaya just to remember the old man for what he did for the people of Othaya, for what he did for the people of this country. Professor Kagwanja, thank you. On the foreign policy, you have told us Mwai Kibaki, his foreign policy was based on the best interest for this country. The other day I talked about our foreign policy in Sudan that is driven by commercial interest. And I saw one of the Ruto flower girls yesterday trying to lecture me that I shouldn't talk about it because I saw to some constitution. The constitution that I and Muturi saw to is to do the right thing and to keep the law. It's not to enable other countries to buy arms to kill children. And Eugene Wamalwa, you know, we are looking at what is happening about Butere girls. We are unable to understand what is this viciousness against children by the present government. Even the colonial government that was very brutal, it never went for the children. Muzungu, they were very brutal, but they spared the children. So we have seen a situation where an administration has panicked because this one term is becoming real. So they have gone berserk. They have gone berserk, and they are now fighting shadows, including schoolgirls. From 2 girls, from 3 girls. These are harmless girls. How fluid is your government if girls can bring it down? Girls. Surely. You know. So when you look at the situation in the Sudan, we are allowing gold to be processed in Kenya and guns to be smuggled through Nairobi to go and kill children in the Sudan. So we are asking, what is this bile against young children? We saw the killing of the Gen Zs, the abductions of young children. What is this bile against innocent young children? So as we move on, let's pray for the country. And Ambassador, again, to shukuru wewe. Now I'm looking at General Gachagua here, and I want to say, if General Gachagua was the director of NIS, that play would not have been banned in Nakuru if it had to be banned. Because it came all the way from the sub-county, nobody noticed. It went to the county, nobody noticed. It went to the region and it became number 3, nobody noticed. They only noticed about it in Nakuru, in the finals, because of a failed intelligence system. You know, that will not happen. So if a decision needed to be made that is a bad play and people should not see it, ingesimamishiwa huko mbali, because the officers on the ground every day, lakini watu wote wamelala, kila mtu anatafuta pesa. Hii serikali ni ya biashara. Watu ya intelligence wanatafuta biashara, watu ya polisi wanatafuta biashara, rais mwenyewe anatafuta biashara. Sasa, you know, these are things that would make Mwai Kibaki turn in his grave. You know, tuko na shida kubwa, lakini Mungu anatusaidia. So Jacob Haji, we are forming a political party in May. Tutatangaza. We look for a way to work with the Democratic Party. We would like to be associated with Mwai Kibaki and what he achieved. Wacha ni introduce huyu Ketu Arugoro, simama, pigia makofi. Huyu mrembo ya Laikipia. And we have our daughter. She's called Gather in Kikuyu land. The Honorable Gathoni wa Muchomba. Tuko na Masi Kakuya, alikuwa mjumbe hapo Kasarani. She has been associated with this party for a long time. Of course, tuko na Norman Nyaga na wengine, na tumeshukuru sana, and the organizers of this function, we are honored. Tuko na Jane Kihara, the great lady of Naivasha. Alichaguliwa as an MP kwa hii chama ya Democratic Party. She's a third member, ako kwa tamu ya 3. Na nikali anaangushaga wanaume 7 kila uchaguzi. Wote wanaweka chini. These strong women, they are strong people. So tumeshukuru sana, and thank you very much, and asanteni sana Ambassador Muthaura and your team that supported Mwai Kibaki. We honor you because you made him great by serving him well and helping him to steer this country, even as he advanced in age. You know, his things were going very, very well. But again, it is him who gave you the opportunity and allowed you to work. Asanteni sana. Thank you very much.